The word karma is one of the probably the most enduring contribution of India to world culture and also the most misunderstood. Yeah. First of all, the correct term for it is not even karma, it is karmana. Yeah. But karma karma bol ke karma. So it is fine. There was even a famous book called Karma Cola, when the phrase first became famous in the world in the 60s. A very famous book called Karma Cola. So karma has many definitions, many people have talked about it. But fundamentally karma is the operating principle of the universe. Karma is the principle that every action has an inevitable and equal consequence. So in one sense karma can be defined as eternal action consequence loop. It is a loop because the consequence puts you into doing more actions, which puts you into doing more consequences, experiencing more consequences. It's a sort of never ending cycle. Now, this has no moral or ethical judgment to it. It merely means that if a certain action is done, there is a certain consequence. Of course, if you do good actions, better actions, the consequences are good and better. If you do not so worthy actions, the consequences tend to be problematic. So, this is the fundamental operating principle of Indian culture. It does not matter whether Hindu, Buddhist, or Jain. Unless you accept karma, you cannot understand Indian culture. In Indian culture, everything is founded upon the notion of karma, and automatically, because of karma, there is a notion of reincarnation. There is a notion of that one life is not the only life that we have. This is something that carries forth. The sum of your actions, the sum of your action consequence carries forth lifetime to lifetime. Now, this is the biggest stumbling block for people from other cultures because they are like, where is the proof? The proof is found with yogis. Every yogi, every enlightened yogi has the inevitable experience of the memory of past lives. From the time you were an amoeba, from the time you were a unicellular organism right up through every kind of evolution that you have, that is called the Punya Smriti, the pure memory or the Purna Smriti, the full memory. And enlightenment is not possible until you've had the Purna Smriti. That is one of the necessary but not sufficient conditions of enlightenment. You cannot become enlightened unless you have that understanding of a full loop, everything that has happened to you and has brought you to this stage. When you are in deep and serious meditation, very often necessary memories from the past surface, things that you need to know, memories that you need to know, incidents, episodes that you needed to know. I am not, no yogi in fact is in favor of consciously trying to recall past life memories because there are multiple problems with that. Though nowadays it is one of very fashionable thing to do, past life regression. The problem with that, as I explained once before, is that it is very easy for the mind to create realities. It is very easy for the mind to create stories. And we are all educated, we all know about other cultures, other situations, and lots of life histories can be created wholesale. You are passing by, you heard something in the TV in the next person's house, you can create an entire story out of that. So most of the memories of previous lifetimes are not accurate. The accurate memories are the ones that come in personal experience, or if there is an enlightened master and he tells you something about previous lifetime, if he feels it is necessary or she feels it is necessary for you to know, they might say. So this aspect of karma, that karma inevitably causes reincarnation, that is something that yogis find that their experience proves the truth of it. Now either you accept it or you don't accept it. I find no difficulty in accepting it because I have experienced it myself. I have experienced the whole ball game myself, so I know it is true. Secondly, if you don't have karma, the universe is a very nasty place. If you don't accept karma, the universe is a very nasty place and God is ineffectual. How can you accept a good, kind, benevolent, compassionate, loving God and accept so much cruelty and horror in the universe? That is, in theology, it is called theodicy, explaining the existence of evil in the universe. How, when there is an all powerful, all benevolent, all powerful means omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent, there is an all powerful, all loving, and there is still so much pain, horror, suffering, sin. How does God allow that? The problem of evil. So, this is an old dilemma. The old dilemma is that, is God all powerful and he cannot prevent evil? Then he is not all powerful. Is God all powerful and he allows evil to take place? Then he is an evil guy himself. So karma is the only rescue that we have. It is the only raksha for God. Otherwise, you have to accept that God decides that a child will be born with a congenital brain defect. I wouldn't want to worship a God like that. I wouldn't want a God like that who makes people born with diseases or makes people born with makes people born with pain and sorrow and suffering. But if you have the concept of karma, then you understand that this is all balancing out. The universe balances out everything. The universe is interested in stability. So too much in any one direction and the opposing forces set into play. Which is why we shouldn't get too excited when good things happen and we shouldn't get too depressed when bad things happen. We actually have a pretty good life, considering that there are people in India who live in jhoppadpattis and they live in pipes. We are not hungry, we are not diseased, so we really have no reason to complain.